Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, sallallahu ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam. Some of you noticed in some of the comment section, and I appreciate all of you, who come through and who share some of your knowledge with me, and I appreciate your questions as well. But this question that I've noticed has come up a lot, and it's dealing with slavery, in Islam, and it's a subject that I understand. African Americans in particular, I know, and many people of the world, whether they are uh, conservative thinking people or liberal thinking people, this is a subject. It's also been a hot topic because one of the American political commentators, Candace Owens, spoke on it and had a very controversial 5 or 6 minute video from Prager University dealing with slavery, and it seems that in her video she was just trying to prove that this was something that wasn't invented by white people. And I mean, I'm shocked that people believe that it was. So I think this shows that many of us have to begin to educate ourselves beyond just looking at videos on YouTube. I felt even her presentation of the situation, though it brought up a few facts that I thought were obvious to most people, I thought the video was a little bit oversimplified, but that's just me. But with regards to Islam and the existence of slavery in it, Islam, like I said, many times, oftentimes when we're dealing with these issues, Islam is a message from the creator of the heavens and the earth. All right, from God, who we know who calls himself Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the Quran. All right, you had human societies in existence doing what they do, carrying on their daily lives, etc. When Islam comes, okay, and it came by way of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, starting first with his own people in the Arabian Peninsula, then it traveled to other parts of the world. But it pretty much confronts every culture the same. It comes as a sieve, okay? And it travels into a society and it engages and comes into conversation with that society. What is acceptable to Islam and Islam's principles and Islam's vision and Islam's goals is able to pass through the sieve, and what does not is stopped. And slavery is no different. Slavery as an institution existed from about as long as human beings existed, as long as human beings were forming societies, as long as human beings were forming governments, as long as human beings were in conflict with one another. Typically what happened in those early times, you would have one society versus another society. It could be city-states, it could be countries, it could be whatever, come in conflict with one another. The mutually understood consequences of wars typically was that the loser was enslaved to the victor, and they were at the complete mercy of the victor. Oftentimes, you look into Sumerian cultures, going back to, ancient Mesopotamia. Sometimes the victor of the war would just slaughter the people that they conquered. That's one way. Sometimes they punished those people severely. Some heinous things like flaying, which is to peel off the top skin of people, all right, was done from the victor to the losers of the war. Sometimes they'd be imprisoned, starved, killed, raped, murdered, whatever. All types of things would happen. This is the state of humanity. All right. This continued in Greece and Rome. You had different slaves. This happened, of course, in the Middle East. It happened in Africa. It happened pretty much all over the place. This was the way of the world. When Islam came into the world, what Islam did was it regulated slavery. All right? It came and regulated it. Did it come and just abolish it in one fell swoop? No, it did not do that. Did it come to create? Did it invent something called slavery? Absolutely not. I'll share with you what the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam said. This is from one of his companions, Abu Dhar radiyallahu an, who said that the Prophet Muhammad, right, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said this. He said that Allah, God, has made some of your brothers as slaves under your care. Okay? Now, the word he used was fitya, all right, because it's very important to distinguish fitya, which is being translated as slave here. But the word abd is really the word for a slave, which is someone who has complete power and control of you. Okay? Like the Muslims are known as Abdullah. The Prophet Muhammad is considered Abdullah, which is you are owned by Allah. You are under control by Allah. You have to give utter complete obedience and servitude to Allah. Okay? The Prophet Muhammad never considered, okay, a person who was under the care of another person an Abdul. Never did that. That's not what he came to teach. But listen further. He's made some of your brothers as fitya under your care. So whoever has his brother under his care, then let him feed him at the same level of what he eats. Okay? Then let him clothe him from what he wears. And do not give him a job or a duty that he cannot bear. And if you give him a duty that is too hard for him, then assist him in it. Listen to this here. When the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam came to the world, he came and he taught that when you have a person under your care, and a person can end up under your care from a number of different reasons. All right, in the Arabian Peninsula, for example, tribes may go to war with another tribe. The loser tribe, what do you do with the people that are there? You can imprison them forever like America does, okay? You can kill them, you can do whatever. But oftentimes what happens is you'll be under the care of another person, okay? How were you treated? You're treated under these regulations. If you are living, let's say, under someone else, as we'll use the word slave here. Just tell me what kind of slavery is this? That if you wear Gucci, you wear Louis Vuitton, you wear Fendi, your so-called slave has to wear Gucci, Vuitton, Louis, or Fendi. If you eating crabs and lobster and filet mignon every night, your so-called slave has to eat crabs, filet mignon, and shrimp every night. This is what the Prophet ﷺ is saying. And also, if you have a so-called slave, you can't give him a duty that's too much. Like, he can't be out there picking cotton, 8 hours a day in the hot sun and or carrying all these bags like a horse and all of that kind of stuff. That's illegal. That's not what that's not what you're allowed to do. Okay? So, and if you do give him a job like that, you gotta help him. This is what the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, had said. All right? He said, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said Ikhwanukum ja'alakum Allahu tahta aydikum fad'imuhum mimma ta'kuluna. Well, it's basically the same, some of the things he says here. So the messenger of Allah, this is what Muhammad said. He said, these people are your brothers whom Allah has put under your control. So feed them with the same food that you eat, clothe them with the same clothes you wear, and do not burden them with so much that they are overwhelmed. And if you burden them, then help them. Okay? So these are the parameters. This is what you have to do. All right? So this is what I'm saying. It is incorrect. It is wrong to compare chattel slavery that took place in the United States to what the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ allowed and regulated. Is incorrect. There is no idea of like this slave being a property or being something that you own, that you can do whatever you want with. Okay, these people had rights, and if you're under the care of someone like this, you have upward mobility in the society. I'll give you a couple examples. Study this history of the Mamluks of Egypt, not ancient Egypt, not Ptolemaic Egypt under, Cleopatra or something like that. No, I'm talking about Egypt in the Middle Ages. You're talking about 1100s, 10th century, this type of Egypt under the Mamluk dynasty. The Mamluks were a group of people that actually were part of the slave class. One of them was by the name. One of them was called Quds. Say Quds. He's from the east, the Samarkand region. He ended up a slave in Egypt because his people were conquered by the Mongols, and then some of the Mongols took and sold him, okay, to the Arabs. Now, the selling part you may have a problem with, but again, this is morals, okay? When you're talking morality, there's different ways of defining morality, okay? Some things are, consequentially wrong. Some things are categorically wrong. It's all about morals. If you get caught up in the moral thing, then you'll never be able to grasp these concepts. You'll just be emotional, and you'll just be, which doesn't mean anything. You'll never get to the truth like that, okay? You have to be able to, imagine yourself living in a different world in a different time where people lived under a different set of rules and morals and views, okay? You don't look at history through the eyes of your current state. Because if you do, you're not going to get anywhere, okay? So he ended up in Egypt, okay? And there was another guy that ended up in Egypt who went by the name of Baybars, okay? He ended up there because he was a Turkish kid that ends up in Egypt, all right? So one guy's from India. He's of the Indian type of background. The other guy's Turkish. Both of them end up in the house of a person, who was their caretaker. He educates them. They learn how to fight. They learn archery. They learn swimming. They learn mathematics. They learn the sciences of their time. They learn about the religion of Islam, so on. Okay. Eventually, they're freed. Okay, and they enter the military. They rise up through the ranks of the military. And then Sultan Quds, as a result of the present king there, Sully Ayub, he dies. Okay, this is someone from the family of Salahuddin Ayyubi, the famous Salahuddin. Okay, so Sully Ayub, he dies, and then his son is too young. And you know who gets voted in by the scholars of Islam? This former slave Quds. Okay, he becomes the leader of all of Egypt. All right, and then later after him, Baybars, who is another slave, he becomes the slave, and this is known as the Mamluk dynasty. It is no comparison when you talk about slavery in Islam. Now, this is, of course, the way it's supposed to go. When I talk about Islam, I'm talking about Islam as the message sent from God that human beings are, to follow. Okay? I'm not talking about what some Muslims who break the laws or who decide not to follow it properly do. Okay, there's a difference. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that there haven't been in the times of, in history, times where so-called Muslims didn't mistreat slaves or didn't mistreat people under their care. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that. But what I will tell you is that those people on the Day of Judgment will be held accountable. Just like those who mistreated slaves in America will be held accountable on the Day of Judgment. That's the other part of Islam that we tell you. All right? But please, don't misunderstand this narrative and this fact and go about thinking that this is somehow some sort of excuse to not accept this beautiful message of Islam, because that won't fly. Yom Qiyamah, okay? You saw what the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam said. You see what he outlined as being the parameters of it. Now, if you want to go further and you still want to judge, compare it to what you have today. They claim that in the 1800s that they abolished slavery simply because, they put it in writing. Right? They think putting stuff in writing means abolishing it. Well, let's really look at this. What happened in the Constitution? What does the Constitution really state? The amendment. Slavery was abolished, right, with the exception, unless someone breaks the laws of the United States. What does that mean? This means that you're so-called free, you're not allowed, you can't be a slave unless you break the law. Then if you break the law, then what? Then you become a slave of the government. So the government is allowed to have slaves. They just call it the prison system, right? Where they put you in jail, and now you're just in this environment where they can get you to work making license plates and other items for what? 10 cents an hour, 7 cents an hour, 15 cents an hour, or they just have you in this environment that is like inhumane. Some people are in solitary confinement prisons, where they go crazy mentally and they're studying these people. Others are like, just living in all these different populations where men are with men and women are with women. Look at the amount of homosexuality that comes as a result of it. Not people that are like the classic people who make the claim that they're born that way, liars, but not that. We're talking about people who are forced to fulfill the natural animal urge that they have on their own sex. Simply because they really are trapped in this place that they have to be for 10 years, 20 years, the rest of their life. Okay? Just imagine just the amount of evil that is taking place in an environment like this. Like where the natural human urge, just think about the amount of suffering that's taking place there to the souls of these people. And they somehow believe that they're morally superior to people in the past who had other ways of dealing with individuals who were considered like outcasts in their particular society. Let's be honest. Which one is really better? What I told you that the Prophet Muhammad said, that you have a person under your care or persons under your care that got to eat whatever you eat. That means if you eating shrimp, they got to eat shrimp. If you wearing Louis Vuitton, they got to wear Louis Vuitton. All right? And if you mistreat them, you know what? You know what the law is in Islam? If you mistreat them, that the slave can actually go, like you hit a slave, for example. They can actually go to a judge, okay, and have you in trouble. All right, you got to pay either a tax for that, or in some cases, you got to get hit yourself, according to the law. All right, study these things thoroughly. Don't just try to find these little excuses to, say that Islam is wrong, or make an excuse for yourself to not accept. Okay, so. That's just what I want to say about this. May make another video about it that's a little bit more detailed if necessary. But for me, I think for now, this should suffice. Peace.